Welcome to This Explainer, where we're diving right into the absolutely fascinating ways modern researchers try to decode the monumental structures of ancient Egypt. You know, ancient Egypt has always cast this massive shadow over human history. It's been captivating our imaginations for millennia. But how exactly do we piece together their silent secrets? Well, that depends entirely on who's doing the looking. Today, we're going to explore two completely different approaches to understanding antiquity, drawing from two very distinct sources. One is grounded in rigorous physical marine archaeology, and the other, well, it ventures into a highly speculative, theoretical realm of ancient, advanced technology. So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start off with the wonders of Egypt, look at excavating the sunken lighthouse, and digitizing the pharaohs. Then we're going to pivot over to pyramids as power plants, giants and technology, and finally, we'll wrap up by comparing these two wildly different views of antiquity. We really have to ask ourselves how we interact with the past. When you're faced with structures that have stood dead silent for thousands of years, how do you make them speak? Think about it. If you just stumbled upon a giant stone block tomorrow, how would you figure out what it was used for? As we'll see, the answers out there range from analyzing physical evidence pulled straight from the Mediterranean seafloor, all the way to formulating alternative hypotheses about global ancient networks. Let's start with the hard physical evidence.
Moving into Section 1, Excavating the Sunken Lighthouse.
Our first lens is a really detailed report by the Centre d'études Alexandriens, or CALEX for short, which chronicles their incredible, meticulous operation to map and recover one of the original 7 wonders of the ancient world. The ancient pharaohs once stood right where the medieval fort of Qaitbay is today, standing guard at the eastern tip of the Pharos Peninsula. It's a breathtaking thought, but coastal subsidence, literally the sinking of the earth over centuries, plunged its entire 3-hectare footprint, which is roughly the size of 4 soccer fields, directly beneath the sea. The majestic tower that used to guide ancient sailors into the Great Harbor now rests completely scattered across the ocean floor.
And to give you an idea of the sheer scale here, researchers are finding colossal statues and architectural blocks weighing up to 40 tons. To put that into perspective, that is the weight of about 6 adult elephants. Just imagine trying to move even one of those on dry land, let alone hoisting it out of the ocean. It really highlights the immense engineering challenge of not only building with these massive stones back in antiquity, but the modern logistical nightmare of identifying, cataloging, and sometimes actually lifting these colossal fragments from a completely submerged environment. It's just a monumental task in every sense of the word.
The underwater dig site itself is a literal treasure trove of these diverse, incredibly hard stone materials and ancient connecting metals. What's super fascinating here is the logistics of the ancient world. The report notes that materials like granite, quartzite, and granodiorite were mostly imported from way down in southern Egypt. And they weren't just stacking stones like ancient Legos either. They were actively pouring lead and iron to bind these structures together so they could withstand crashing ocean waves and the elements.
On to Section 2, Digitizing the Ancient Pharaohs. Since 1994, the CLX team has been battling weather, ocean currents, and just the sheer physical difficulty of working underwater. To actually overcome this, they've had to completely revolutionize their approach to marine archaeology. They've transitioned from your traditional tape and line triangulation to high-tech 3D photogrammetry. Basically, this means stitching thousands of overlapping underwater photos together to build a perfect digital twin of the submerged ruins. In the past, divers had to manually measure things and use acoustic topography to guess what was down there. Now, they're capturing these images to build a highly accurate digital 3D surface model and plugging it into geographic information systems. They are literally bringing the sunken ruins up to the surface digitally. So the really crucial takeaway here is that they have successfully mapped over 10,250 square meters. That's about 65% of the entire site, making it one of the largest submerged architecture models in the world. As of early 2020, they had recorded over 3,000 individual blocks in their database. This allows researchers to virtually reconstruct Hellenistic and pharaonic-style monuments without ever getting wet. Honestly, it's an absolute triumph of empirical, data-driven science.
Now for Section 3, Pyramids as Power Plants.
Okay, we're shifting gears now. We're moving from the physical cataloging of ocean artifacts to a deeply alternative interpretation of antiquity. We'll be exploring the claims presented in a theoretical IJERT publication all about ancient energy. According to this paper, it is absolutely no coincidence that we see pyramids in Egypt, China, and Mexico. The author proposes that these monumental structures were actually part of a globally connected technological grid, purposefully situated on high electromagnetic nodes. The paper posits that these civilizations must have been closely connected, either by sharing a global technology or being guided by the exact same wandering scientists. The paper claims these structures literally acted as power plants, using a highly specific mechanical sequence powered by the River Nile's underwater currents. In this theoretical model, the pyramid isn't a tomb at all, it's an active machine. The theory starts with the kinetic energy of underground water tables creating physical vibrations. These vibrations supposedly interact with the specific geometric angles of the limestone, along with quartz materials built right into the pyramid's core. These materials allegedly act as a massive crystal oscillator. Think of how the tiny quartz crystal in a wristwatch regulates energy, but on a massive scale, to amplify this power upward. And the whole theory heavily relies on something called ionic emission. Imagine the geometric shape of the pyramid acting kind of like a giant funnel, pulling in energy and shooting it straight out of the apex in the form of negative ions. These ions were supposedly channeled into a gold or copper capstone to create a vast wireless power grid. According to the source, this energy was forced up and out, creating a safe wireless electrical field that powered ancient domestic and industrial machinery without any need for transmission wires. Moving to Section 4, Giants and Ancient Technology. The IGERT paper doesn't just stop at power grids, though. It also asks, if these structures were massive power plants, what else was this generated energy used for? And who exactly was operating the equipment? The author argues that certain carvings, like the pillar-shaped Jed column, are actually direct depictions of high-voltage insulation and handheld electric lamps. The paper suggests this completely explains why the interior corridors of the pyramids don't show the carbon staining you'd normally expect if the ancient Egyptians had relied strictly on fire torches for illumination.
Furthermore, the paper posits that this generated energy had miraculous biological effects, essentially acting as a massive incubator that accelerated growth in plants and animals. According to the text, the negative ions concentrated within the pyramid form a highly charged environment that could effortlessly dehydrate and preserve food, somehow restore tarnished metals, and even drastically alter cellular reproduction. So who was doing all the heavy lifting to build these machines? Well, the paper concludes it was giants. Pointing to alleged archaeological finds of oversized skeletons, as well as ancient murals showing varying sizes of human figures, the author builds a narrative that this wireless energy was used to biologically engineer giant workers capable of constructing these magnificent, mathematically perfect monuments. After all, the logic goes, moving 15-ton limestone blocks would require immense, superhuman physical strength.
To further support this sweeping claim of highly advanced ancient societies, the paper points to specific rock carvings that it identifies as ancient helicopters and aircraft. For the author, this serves as the ultimate proof of a lost high-tech era, cementing the idea that the ancient Egyptians were operating at a level of technological sophistication that mirrors or maybe even exceeds our modern capabilities.
And finally, Section 5, Two Views of Antiquity. We've just taken a pretty wild journey across two drastically different methodologies for looking at the very same ancient civilization. We've explored two completely separate paradigms in this explainer today, the rigorous physical preservation of actual artifacts and the sweeping theoretical reimagining of lost global technologies. On one hand, we have archaeologists braving the ocean waves to carefully measure submerged granite with lasers and software, meticulously building a hard, factual database of the past. On the other hand, we have a highly speculative interpretation that looks at the exact same stonework and sees lost electrical grids and genetic incubation chambers. But whether they're viewed as marvels of traditional stone masonry or speculative hubs of advanced electrical science, these monuments clearly command our relentless fascination. The sheer physical footprint of ancient Egypt is just so massive, so imposing, and so expertly crafted that it practically forces us to project our highest technological ideals onto it. It really makes us pause and ask ourselves, what are we truly looking at? I hope this explainer highlighted just how incredibly powerful the allure of ancient Egypt remains, leaving us to wonder how our understanding of antiquity will continue to evolve in the future. As our own modern tools get better and better, whether that's advanced 3D underwater photogrammetry or entirely new ways of analyzing global data, the silent stones of the past are undoubtedly going to keep talking to us. The only real question is, are we ready to listen?